In the closing months of World War II, Japanese engineers stumbled upon something extraordinary, a wrecked American fighter unlike anything they had ever seen before. Its massive radial engine, thick wings, and unconventional design defied everything they thought they knew about aircraft construction. This was no ordinary plane. It was the F4U Corsair, the machine that would become known as Whistling Death. When a damaged Corsair was recovered by Japanese forces in early 1945, it became one of the most valuable pieces of enemy technology Japan had ever captured. Inside its twisted frame lay the blueprint of American industrial dominance and the secrets of how the United States had built the most lethal naval fighter of the Pacific War. The Corsair's story began in 1938, long before America had entered the war. The U.S. Navy issued a bold request: build a fighter capable of flying faster than 400 miles per hour, something no naval aircraft had ever done. Vought Aircraft, led by engineer Rex Beisel, took on the challenge. To meet those demands, Beisel centered his design around the Pratt and Whitney R2800 double Wasp, an 18-cylinder radial engine that produced an astonishing 2,000 horsepower. It was one of the most powerful piston engines ever built, and it would become the beating heart of America's most formidable warplanes. But this engine posed a problem. It was so large that a conventional landing gear couldn't provide enough clearance for the giant 13-foot propeller. Vaught's solution would become legendary, an inverted gull wing that allowed shorter, stronger landing gear while maintaining propeller clearance. It gave the Corsair its iconic silhouette and a nickname that would echo through the Pacific: Whistling Death. When the prototype first took to the skies in 1940, test pilots were stunned. It shattered records, reaching 404 miles per hour, faster than any fighter on Earth at that time. The U.S. Navy was impressed, but also cautious. Landing such a powerful machine on aircraft carriers proved challenging. The Corsair's long nose obstructed visibility, and its tendency to bounce on touchdown made carrier landings treacherous. As a result, the Navy initially rejected it for carrier service. Instead, the Marines saw potential. They would fly it from island airstrips across the Pacific. The Corsair entered combat in February 1943 with Marine Fighter Squadron 124 deployed to Guadalcanal. Pilots quickly learned that this new aircraft demanded respect. Its immense torque and speed could be deadly if mishandled, but in the right hands it was unstoppable. Among those hands was Kenneth Walsh, who would become the first Corsair ace. Walsh described the aircraft as a brute with wings, but a brute that could save your life. Against the nimble Japanese Zero, the Corsair proved devastating. Its speed, climb rate, and firepower, 650 caliber Browning machine guns, allowed it to dominate in combat. Within months, the Corsair achieved an extraordinary 11-to-1 kill ratio against Japanese aircraft. However, the road wasn't without tragedy. On February 14, 1943, a mission over Kahili became known as the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. 12 Corsairs of VMF-124 were ambushed by Japanese Zeros. 7 never returned. The loss nearly ended the Corsair AS combat debut, but lessons learned from that disaster shaped the aircraft's vast tactics and training for the rest of the war. By late 1943, Corsair squadrons had adapted, flying in pairs, diving from altitude, and using their superior speed, they learned how to fight on their own terms. never turning with the agile Zero, but striking with lightning-fast hit-and-run attacks. The results were staggering. Japanese pilots began to fear the deep growl of the Corsair BS engine, a sound that preceded death from above. By early 1945, Japan's situation was desperate. American forces were advancing from island to island, and Corsairs were everywhere. They escorted bombers, strafed ground targets, and shredded Japanese fighters. Then, in January 1945, Japanese troops stationed in the Philippines made an extraordinary discovery. A badly damaged F4U Corsair, forced to crash land after being hit by anti-aircraft fire, was found mostly intact. Its pilot had bailed out and been rescued, leaving the wreck behind. The aircraft was quickly disassembled and shipped to the Yokosuka Naval Air Technical Arsenal, Japan's premier center for aviation research. Here, some of the nation's most skilled engineers and scientists, men who had designed the Zero and other Imperial Navy aircraft, began a meticulous study of the captured machine. For Japan's engineers, examining the Corsair was both fascinating and humbling. They discovered a level of manufacturing precision they had never seen before. The Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine alone was a masterpiece. Its cooling fins, fuel injection system, and supercharger represented a leap forward in mechanical design. Japanese radial engines, though effective, lacked the same materials and tolerance control. They were astonished by the Corsair's use of high-grade alloys, precision machining, and modular assembly techniques that allowed for rapid wartime production without sacrificing reliability. The Corsair's inverted gull wing also intrigued them. It wasn't just a stylistic quirk, it reduced drag, improved lift, and allowed shorter landing gear for carrier operations. The Japanese noted how each rivet and joint was designed for maximum strength under combat stress. What impressed them most, however, was American mass production capability. Every component of the Corsair bore evidence of industrial consistency: identical bolts, standardized wiring, and machine-perfect fittings. In Japan, where skilled craftsmen still hand-built many aircraft components, such uniformity was nearly impossible. The study revealed an uncomfortable truth. America's strength wasn't just in numbers, it was in industrial science. As engineers at Yokosuka dismantled the Corsair piece by piece, they realized that the U.S. war machine operated on an entirely different scale. Where Japan built hundreds of aircraft by hand, America built thousands on assembly lines. Factories like Vogt, Goodyear, and Brewster churned out Corsairs at staggering speed, over 1,200 units by the end of the war. Japanese intelligence analysts concluded that even if Japan matched American engineering quality, they could never match its production efficiency. The Corsair's durability was also a revelation. Its rugged frame could absorb incredible punishment: bullet holes, engine damage, and torn control surfaces, and still return home. For a nation struggling with material shortages, such resilience seemed almost miraculous. One Yokosuka engineer reportedly remarked, "This machine is not just designed to fly, it is designed to survive." They marveled at the Corsair's self-sealing fuel tanks, armor plating, and retractable tailhook, all integrated seamlessly into the structure. Its versatility, able to serve as a fighter, bomber, and interceptor, reflected a design philosophy centered on adaptability and endurance. The captured Corsair became a teaching tool, a sobering reminder of how far behind Japan had fallen industrially by 1945. Even the simplest American components, spark plugs, wiring harnesses, hydraulic fittings, were built with a precision Japan could not replicate at scale. While Japanese engineers studied their captured prize, Corsairs continued to dominate the skies. From Rabaul to Okinawa, they ruled the Pacific theater. Corsairs protected bombers, supported amphibious landings, and hunted Japanese shipping. By war's end, they had destroyed more than 2,000 enemy aircraft, achieving an average kill ratio of 11.1, one of the highest in aviation history. In the Battle of Okinawa, Corsairs flew thousands of sorties, downing kamikazes and providing close air support to troops on the beaches. Their combination of speed, range, and firepower made them indispensable. When the war ended in August 1945, the Corsair had earned its place as one of the greatest fighters of all time. Yet its story did not end there. The Corsair continued to serve long after the guns of World War II fell silent. During the Korean War, it once again proved its worth, this time as a ground attack aircraft. Flying from carriers and land bases, Corsairs pounded enemy positions with rockets, napalm, and bombs. In 1952, Marine pilot Major John Glenn, who would later become America's first astronaut, flew the Corsair in combat missions over Korea. Even as jet fighters took over the skies, the rugged old Whistling Death refused to fade away. It fought in smaller wars across the globe, including the 1969 Soccer War between Honduras and El Salvador, marking the Corsair's final combat chapter nearly 30 years after its debut. For Japan's engineers who once studied that downed Corsair, the lessons learned would shape the post-war era. In the decades after the war, Japan rebuilt its industry with a new focus on precision manufacturing and quality control, principles inspired in part by what they had witnessed in American wartime engineering. The story of the captured Corsair is not just about a single aircraft. It is about a revelation. It showed Japan the future of industrial warfare, machines built not by artisans, but by an entire nation's technological might. The Corsair was more than an airplane. It was a symbol of innovation, resilience, and the power of modern engineering. From the jungles of the Pacific to the skies over Korea, it proved that victory in the air belonged not only to the brave, but to the prepared. And in the quiet hangars of Yokosuka, where engineers once examined its broken frame, they knew. They were witnessing the dawn of a new era, one forged in steel, fire, and American industrial genius. This has been When Japan Captured America, its Deadliest Fighter, the Secret Study of the F4U Corsair. If you enjoyed this deep dive into World War II aviation history, remember to like, subscribe, and explore more untold stories of courage, innovation, and war.